So what I want to go through real quick here is just a quick discussion of the different organ systems and just kind of the basics of each organ system. Again, since this is our kind of first chapter, I'm not expecting you to know, in all honesty, everything and all the parts of every organ system. But I mean, to me, knowing some of the basic things that make up that organ system as well as some of the functions is what I would be expecting on this first exam. Is just like, okay, with the integumentary system, knowing that it's mainly the skin and associated glands and then some of its main functions. And any of these ones, I'm not going to ask you to list every organ in the system and all the functions of the system and how they do it. That's what we're going to spend a lot of the rest of the course doing. So to start out with, integumentary system is really kind of the skin and the associated structures. So the skin, both the epidermis and dermis of that, the hair and nails, as well as some of those different sweat and oil glands. Really what this is doing for the body is really more than anything protection. Covering the external part of the body over those deeper lying tissues. One of the things it is involved in is vitamin D synthesis, but it prevents chemicals from getting in, prevents pathogens from getting in, prevents it from drying out. A lot of our touch receptors are present in this area. And again, all those other deeper tissues is protecting different organisms and other things from getting to that. The next one here is the skeletal system. It is really all the bones of the body. So overall, there's 206 bones of the body. Throughout the course, you will be learning pretty much all of these. It sounds like a lot, but again, you make a line down the middle of the face, down through the center of the body. It's the same bones on the left and right of the body with a few exceptions on this. So really, what are the bones doing? More than anything, protection. So the skull protecting the brain, the ribs protecting the heart and lungs. Outside of that, it really does create the lever system in order for the muscles to be able to work. Inside our bone marrow, inside the bones is our bone marrow. That red bone marrow is involved in that hemo or hematopoiesis, which is synthesizing blood cells. And the other thing you've probably heard at one point or another is that calcium is very important to the bones. Calcium is one of the main components in bones. It is a way we kind of maintain our calcium homeostasis in the body. Our bones are our calcium kind of warehouse. We can put a lot of calcium into these areas, and then when we need it or we're short on calcium, we can reabsorb some of that bone tissue in order to free up some of that calcium. The muscular system, there is a lot of muscles in the body. Overall, we'll learn a decent number of them, not 600 plus. Really, muscles, what they do is it's all about movement. So moving things through you. So it lets us move through our environment, moves things through us, helps us stay upright, maintain that posture. And one of the things you'll notice, especially if you are doing something in the winter and you have a lot of coat on that, you might be cold, you start doing something really active, they do generate a decent amount of heat. So it's one of the things that does help maintain our body temperature, among others. The nervous system is one of our command and control systems. This is the brain and spinal cord is the central nervous system, and then all those peripheral nerves, both from the brain as well as from the spinal cord, going out to the rest of the body. This is a quick-acting system for controlling the body. Can send messages out, can bring stimuli, information back into the central nervous system, and really is its main job is really kind of monitoring what's going on in the body and sending out signals to the body in order to deal with what's going on with the body. The endocrine system is the other command and control system. Again, this is one, if I was making a list, everything here, it's seemed to be a pretty long list on this one, but lots of glands that make this up. So pituitary, thyroid, thymus, pineal, parathyroid, adrenal glands, pancreas, small intestines have some activity, stomach has some activity, the testes, ovaries, the kidney, as well as the heart are all going to secrete hormones that can act on different tissues in the body. That is what an endocrine gland is. So one of those systems that a lot of times people might not realize is a system because of the fact that most of our systems are connected organs to one another. The endocrine system, organs that are doing similar functions but are found throughout the body and are not connected by nerves, are not connected by blood vessels directly, are not connected by like the digestive system, a continuous tube going through the body. A little bit slower acting system here. It's going to release hormones that can bring about changes in other tissues. shorter, it takes a little bit longer for it to be active, longer lasting though. So things like puberty you can see are a little bit more permanent than say nerve impulse saying contract this hand, okay, let it go. Cardiovascular system is the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. The whole purpose of this, our cells do not swim around with the exception of sperm cells. Because of that, we need to bring everything that those cells need to survive to those cells, as we've been talking about with homeostasis. It is the heart's job to pump this blood through the blood vessels, which provide that pathway, and this is going to allow us to deliver nutrients, pick up waste products, deliver respiratory gases, and remove respiratory gases as well as waste products, along with moving around heat and those different hormones that the endocrine system might release. Another one of these is the lymphatic system. One of the things, and this is a harder one a little bit to explain, why we have lymphatic vessels. So you have lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes. The lymphatic vessels and the lymph nodes are really a one-way pathway from the tissues back to the bloodstream, the subclavian veins. One of the things that happens in capillary beds is we push out more fluids than we reabsorb at those tissues. Without the lymphatic system, you get a buildup of fluid or edema in those areas. Other things, we have the spleen, thymus, and the bone marrow. These are involved in making of these different lymphocytes and white blood cells. This is part of how the spleen is going to screen the blood. The thymus is involved in manufacturing T cells. Red bone marrow makes all of our different blood cells. We a lot of times group this with the immune system because in those lymph nodes you're going to see a lot of immune cells that are going to monitor these fluids that are coming back from the tissues back to the bloodstream. So really, when we're thinking about lymphatic system, the vessels and that are really about bringing fluid back to the bloodstream so we don't lose blood volume. Along the way, we screen that for different foreign pathogens such as viruses, bacteria, and that's why a lot of times we'll group this with the immune system. Technically, you could also put the immune system, because it is mainly white blood cells, you could also kind of group it together with the cardiovascular system. The respiratory system is the lungs and the associated tubing above that, so the nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea. This is about bringing in oxygen and removing carbon dioxide from our system. Part of how our cells do their normal energy production is it's going to require oxygen. We do what's called oxidative phosphorylation as part of our energy production. One of the byproducts of breaking down these nutrients to generate that energy is going to generate CO2, and we need to get rid of that. So the breathing in and out is about bringing in oxygen for our cells to keep working, removing the waste product of CO2. Because of how we carry, especially CO2 in the bloodstream, the respiratory system is also a very big regulator of blood pH. Digestive system, one that everybody's usually a lot more familiar with. This is the oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, the rectum, along with a lot of those accessory organs like salivary glands, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. What this is allowing us to do is bring in nutrients, and then throughout the rest of these tubes and that, as well as using the accessory organs, break down those nutrients into absorbable forms that the body can actually use in the cells. The urinary system is the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, and the urethra. This is going to be removing nitrogenous waste products from the bloodstream. At the kidneys are really doing this. The ureters, urinary bladder, urethra, these are tubes and storage tanks that are moving this out of the body. Because we are filtering the blood with the urinary system, it is highly involved in a lot of regulation of things like water, electrolytes, blood pH, along with a lot of other nutrients within the bloodstream. So that is one of the major functions of the urinary system, is regulating levels of things like sodium, like potassium, and blood pH. A lot of these other ones here. It's the other big regulator of blood pH. And then finally, the reproductive system. Everybody's had sex ed at one point or another here. Males, it's the testes are the gonads, along with those associated structures and organs that are involved in the male sexual response. The female, the gonads are the ovaries. And again, you obviously have the uterine tubes, uterus, and the rest of the female reproductive parts here. Again, really both male and female, it's really the whole function here is to produce more humans. in a simple sense. So again, really with these areas here, I am expecting you to kind of understand the basis of what the system is doing along with the basic organs that are part of these systems. Again, not going to ask you to list every organ from any of these systems or give me every function, but if I give you a multiple choice saying what is the function of this system or which of these organs would be found in the reproductive system, something like that was what the kind of stuff I would say would be fair game.